Today I'm discussing Aguirre, The Wrath of God, a really strong film from Werner Herzog, and the purpose I have is twofold. I am going to be reviewing and discussing and sort of celebrating the film and why I think it's so good, but the other is something that I strive to do as a film watcher. If I watch a classic or something that's well reviewed, and I'm not connecting with it the way I think I probably should, sometimes I'll go back and revisit that film and see if it has a stronger effect on me. Maybe I see what I was missing the second time, something like that. And so I want to kind of talk you through the thought process of that, because the first time I saw this film, I was kind of medium on it. I was sort of lukewarm to it, even though I liked it. If you haven't heard of this film, or you don't know a lot about it, you have heard it, you haven't seen it. So this is about a Spanish conquistador in the 16th century, and he's on this quest, and there's a little bit more to it than this, but this group is on a quest in this rainforest in South America. They're looking for El Dorado, and they are completely and totally unprepared in every way. The crew, the cargo, the animals, it is a nightmare of a disaster. And when you watch it, and even when I watched it the first time, you can tell how cursed it all is. You know, if you aren't familiar with this production, it was cursed. Klaus Kinski and Herzog were at each other quite a bit. It's fun to read about that. You can see that working in that rainforest atmosphere in the river, and that it even influenced filming sometimes in the dialogue and the situation. You can see how that weighed down on everyone. And I do believe that the films were shot sequentially, so you even get that extra tension and tiredness from the actors. So when I first saw this, I enjoyed parts of it. I really liked the opening. The opening scenes are magnificent and beautiful, and all these different groups of people and animals trying to come down this really steep mountainside. And I was really into that, and I thought Klaus Kinski was a really good actor, but he was kind of hard to hang with because he's just so intense. But I didn't feel that narrative pull. I didn't have what I was looking for in terms of the plot and the story, and it doled me out a little bit. I zoned out to it. I just didn't feel very invested in the characters. And watching it again, I still didn't feel a personal attachment to the characters. What has happened in a rewatch is I feel, and I just thinking through this and looking at the images and going through the film, I felt like what Herzog created here wasn't about Kinski or, a maiden in distress or a horse that gets stuck away from the raft. This is about us as people. This is about the greater whole of humankind. This is an everyman kind of story. Any of us could have been on that raft, whether symbolically, metaphorically, whatever, because in the end, what's so difficult about this film to watch, we are all getting absorbed every day by nature. We are a little closer to death, and we are ultimately all going to die. And that is really what the film's about. No matter how much we plan, no matter how prepared we think we are, a lot of our efforts are just in vain. And in the end, what do we have left with us? A few good stories, a few traditions. I think the film might be saying that to some extent, if not totally, and it terrifies me when I watch it. This disturbs me as much as The House That Jack Built. It disturbs me as much as Henry, the Portrait of a Serial Killer. Movies that are really tough to watch. I mean, this is just a fabulous study in the macabre, the desperate. It is awesome. And I don't know how many times I could rewatch this. I really don't. You know, I think when I was watching it the first time, I did want that different story, and I wasn't looking for the visual cues. For example, you think about that opening shot that I mentioned. You really are God with the camera. You're looking down, and you kind of see the people descending, and you're judging them harshly. From the beginning, you see a cannon fall off and blow up. Like, why is there a cannon out there in the rainforest? What good's that going to do? And again, you'll see characters literally shoot guns just at nothing because they need to scare off possible foes. And I really realized, like, they're actually lost out there. This is like the Blair Witch Project in some ways, how Herzog is able to create that just with the camera, with a camera that, by the way, I believe was possibly stolen. There's a little bit of a controversy around that. Maybe it was borrowed, I don't know. But I think, whenever I was watching this, I went back and forth. At times, I feel like it's a recollection of different memories of a time pulled from far away, and it's a little bit of a myth or an impression. And then at times it feels so documentary and just like neorealism. And those two things kept happening for me back and forth watching again. It's really fascinating. One of the lines I loved, "We will shoot our enemies with golden bullets." Because, they're going to find gold in El Dorado, so they think. "We will shoot our enemies with golden bullets." Golden bullets. That was one of my favorite lines of the whole film. The gold's not useful. Gold's not going to keep you alive in the jungle. Clean water is, food is. Okay, there are guys that are fighting each other, or they're like little individual pieces of corn, while another guy who's supposed to be the king is feasting. It's fascinating. Gold doesn't. It's fake. It doesn't do anything. It's only got the value that we give it, that we make of it. Right? Jewelry is of no use. Costumes are of no use. The guys, they wear this armor, and all it does is make them look ugly and slow them down because it's the jungle. Like, nothing they do, like the religion. The fact that there are times like a character will say, we're gonna spread this religion to the pagans. No, you're not. All right. Like, and there's some good commentary in there as well. There's one really disturbing scene with religious hatred in the film. The raft itself, when they are floating down the river, the reason that I think it's so difficult to watch and why you can zone out is almost like self-defense, because you're watching a slow, painful death of these people. There's nothing pleasant about it at all. And there's a scene in there where an animal gets, I think this is right, an animal gets on the raft and steals some baby animals, and it's like, you think about like a predator going into a nest and getting like a baby bird, how slow of a suffering and miserable. I mean, that's the kind of movie this is. That's why it's so tough to hang with. Roger Ebert talked a little bit about the role of music, and I think if nothing else in the film, the music is incredible. It's fantastic. It's so moody. I love Nosferatu, which, if you haven't seen this version with the Herzog, this is my favorite Herzog film, one of my favorite films, period. I did do a video on this that I really encourage you to watch if you haven't seen it. And I love the music in that. And this is similar to the music in that film, but this is what Ebert said. "The music sets the tone. It is haunting, ecclesiastical, human, and yet something else." And the band, so Popol Vuh, which is named for a Mayan creation myth, contributed the soundtracks to many of his films for the opening sequence. Herzog said this to Ebert. He said, "We used a strange instrument, which we called a choir organ. It has inside it 36 different tapes running parallel to each other in loops. All these tapes are running at the same time. And there's a keyboard on which you can play them like an organ so that it will sound like a human choir, but yet all the same, very artificial and quite eerie." And I loved that part, that quote, because something does feel very artificial about what these people are doing. They're going and looking for gold. They're going and looking for something fake. They don't live in reality. They don't live in the world in which they've been thrown. Everybody has their own little dream. One guy just wants to be free. Another guy wants to be king of a society. I mean, there's a dude in here that literally thinks he's claimed part of the river as a new kingdom or something. It's totally ridiculous watching these people. And when I watched this, I wrote this down for myself. As a theme, all of humanity is one big accident away from failing in its great ambitions. It is. Whether that's catching disease, an arrow, because the arrows come out of nowhere in this movie. It might, Apocalypse Now, you're going to see comparisons to that. I think Apocalypse Now might be more of the cinematic movie, and I think maybe that's a little bit more of what I was looking for, that obvious bombastic cinematography that you get with something like Apocalypse Now. But again, this is shot on a very different budget, a very different style than what Coppola was doing with that film. And it does make it more intimately terrifying in some ways. And those final shots, like, for people that haven't seen it, this does have some of the most striking, difficult to absorb imagery in those last few minutes as any film you'll ever see. And I really, I love the movie for what it is, but it's difficult to watch. And it is a little bit detached, yet brilliant. So I think by going back and watching this again and giving it another shot and trying to figure out why have these images been on my mind the last few years when I think about the film or hear about it, why, if it was not a great film, why haven't I forgotten it? And revisiting it, I can kind of see why. Maybe I just wasn't seeing the purpose correctly. Maybe I was missing a few of the themes, and I think I was, and I think I was viewing it, quite frankly, a little bit immaturely the first time I saw it. So now I see more value in it, and I'm glad I went back and rewatched it, and that's part of why I made this video, so that maybe you'll think of a classic that, I didn't love it the first time I saw it, I liked it, didn't love it, or I didn't like it, maybe I can go back and revisit it. So if you have a movie like that in the comments, you should tell me about it. And maybe I've seen it, maybe I loved it, and I can tell you something, or however it is you want to go about doing that. But thanks for watching the video. If you can click that like button for me and share your thoughts on this film or any other of Herzog's, and we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.